you sometimes have to slow down, step away to get more things done. Because when you sit there and you want to keep trying to get this done, I got to get this done. You got your head working in so much overdrive that it's like banging your head against a wall. But if you step away, go do something different, just totally forget about what you're doing, it's like a light bulb will flash on and you can come back and just knock it out and be like, why was I making that so hard?
Welcome to Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches, where we discuss all aspects of parenting using the foundation of understanding personality dynamics to raise independent, responsible, and resilient children. My name is Karen Wagner, founder of Teaching Our Youth and the Parenting Blueprint. Let's dig right in with today's topic and have some real talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches. I am so excited to have with me Laura Cross, who is actually the host of Mindful Mondays TV. And I had an opportunity to be a part of your TV show, and I've learned so much about you, your philosophy, and the way you approach life that I just thought it'd be wonderful for you to be able to share with our audience today. As we look at, I wanted to talk about finding our flow, aligning our parenting, our self-care, and our work-life balance, which is something I believe as women, as entrepreneurs, as people who are maybe working outside the home, inside the home, that can really get discombobulated. So let me tell you a little bit about Laura before we get started, because I was just so fascinated with your story. So Laura is actually an Air Force veteran and the owner of White Sands Premier Travel, which is something I love too, Laura, is the travel aspect. But she has an unwavering dedication to promoting self-care and personal growth. She founded White Sands Self-Care and serves as a dedicated host of the popular TV show Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. We will give you the links if you'd like to learn more about Laura Cross's TV show. So you'll be able to watch some of her episodes. Her dedication lies in creating vibrant self-care communities to offer valuable education, resources, and connections and opportunities for collaboration. And so, Laura, I am so excited to have you join us today as we kind of talk to parents about how we find our flow and how we can turn inwards into really identifying what we're feeling and tapping into that. So tell us a little bit about your journey and maybe what you've learned that brought you to why you do what you do today.
Yeah, and as I told you before, Karen, just so we're clear and so your audience knows, I am not a parent. I am a fur mom. I have had dogs all my life for kids, but I have been a kid to my parents. So, yeah, it's been a journey. You and I were talking about it a little bit, and I loved having you on the show because it brought such a great different perspective to help me see things probably how my parents were possibly seeing it. But my personality was very different from my sister's. I was one of those ones that was always told I was too sensitive. I needed to get a tougher shell. I wasn't the same kind of, I'm more of an introvert. I'm an ambivert, actually. I'm in the middle, but I was always one of those shy, quiet people and, kind of got pushed. So it was easy to get picked on and everything else. So I didn't respond to everybody else or everybody else's guidance the way, everybody does. And because of that, it helped shape who I am today. That journey of everything I have gone through, which is why I am passionate about building that judgment-free space, because I think everybody needs to be treated as a decent human being. You need to meet them where they're at. And even if you don't understand it, it's okay, but try to be a little more open-minded and understand it and not always just jump and judge somebody for what you're thinking or what you perceive. And so my whole background, basically growing up and getting to that, losing my husband, finally discovering who I am when I got to shut out all those external noises is what fueled my passion for creating the platforms that I did and having people and connecting with people all over the world. So
I love it. I love it, Laura. And I'm so glad that we've had an opportunity to connect in the areas that we have. So Laura, you talk about following your intuition, listening to what your intuition is telling you. And so, can you explore a little bit more with us as women and as parents and even as human beings? What is that intuition, and why is that so important for us to follow that, especially with all the noise that's coming at us?
Because I think deep down, we really know
Mm.
who we are or what we were meant to do or meant to be doing here. But when you have so much clutter coming at you from everywhere and everybody's expectations, this is what you're supposed to be doing, or oh, you're not on the right path. And I'm not saying it's not out of concern, it's not out of love and wanting the best, but when you start following all those, like that's what I did. I started following everything or just kind of did what I was told and I followed people. Yeah, it got me through life, but I wasn't truly happy,
Mm.
doing what I was doing. And when you get the chance to be able to look inside and just realize what lights you up, what makes you happy, and then how do you make that work? What everybody else thinks doesn't really matter. It's not their life, it is your
Mm.
life. And people really just want the best. But when they don't understand you or what you're doing, then everybody has opinions
Mhm.
and they're not always correct. And I'm not saying it's not out of concern, it's not out of love, it is, but it's just not a good fit. And you've got to be able to shut that off because it is bottom line is it is your life to live.
Wow. It's so true. And as a mom and as a woman myself, I know Mark, my husband, always says, you've got a quick intuition. Moms just have that intuition. Maybe women, we just have that intuition. And there's so many times where I see, especially on social media, moms will be posting things and questioning what they should do in a certain situation. When I'm feeling kind of as you just said, if you're questioning it, you already know,
Mhm.
but you're questioning your intuition. That is your gut telling you that you're unsure about the conflict that may be coming your way based on a particular situation, and to explore why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And a lot of it for me came back to my values, right? My values of who I was, how I was raising my children, who I was as a woman, as a mom, my expectations. Because if I didn't hold true to that, the world would come in and it would be like this ebb and tide, and I would be on this wave and this roller coaster and be very inconsistent, probably, if I was listening to all the noise of the world and not following our intuition. And so when we are starting to feel that in our gut, you talk about that gut feeling, that this is what I should do. How do we process that when we are feeling that internal conflict, so we can again be aligned with what we believe to be true and not feel as though, but this is what I'm hearing and I should probably do that instead of following our gut? How do we work through that emotion?
It, it took me a lot of years. I only started doing that recently, probably in the last few years, and I'm like 57 now. But so it took me a long time, and I'm hoping it doesn't take others. But when you know in your gut, the best thing I would do is just decided to just kind of make a stand my ground.
Mhm.
And people were either going to come along with me and understand or they weren't. And when you grow up as someone that's been sensitive, been picked on, because you make it when you're sensitive, you're an easy target
Mhm.
for people. You unfortunately you are an easy target. Because of that, I didn't like school.
Mhm.
So not that I wasn't smart, wasn't I good at? I didn't like being there. So my grades were not good. My
Mhm.
sister was the opposite. Honor student, everything. I was not. So it got perceived as lazy or other things or not doing the best. It got all kinds of different perceptions. It's just that I was not comfortable, but I never really knew why or never really knew how to explain it or do it. And so all of that led to me trying to prove that I'm smarter, to prove to other people this, being a perfectionist. Even when it came over into business, I found myself when I do something, I'm asking people that I put on a pedestal somewhere saying, "Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And then it's like finally a light bulb came on. It's like it doesn't matter what they think because you're always going to have a different opinion and their perception. It's a matter of how does it make me feel? If I love it and it's representing who I am, then that's who it's going to attract and that's who it's meant to attract. You're not going to attract, and everybody's not going to like you. That's okay. And it took me a long time to get to that because that used to really upset me where I've never met somebody and all of a sudden somebody was like nasty. And it's like, where do you, it's like, what did I do, to make them so nasty? It takes a lot to get to that point. And I don't necessarily think it's a tougher shell. I've just learned to protect myself and
Mhm.
not, I don't want to say not care. I kind of don't care, but I care. I care, but I don't care. You learn to protect yourself and you create that bubble,
Yeah.
basically. You got to have your boundaries. You got to set those boundaries. And if you have someone that's constantly at you or constantly doesn't see is constantly negative, then you need to step
Mhm.
away from them, create that space. I don't care if they're family, friends, they're either going to come around and understand or they're not. But you have to create that space because, yeah, I mean, you only get that shot, right? So
I so appreciate that. And Laura, we spoke before. You are very much on the relational side of the human behavior model. You're very supportive and you feel everybody's feels, that's part of the personality. And so you're very empathetic to a lot of things. That's why you focus on this non-judgment zone, and I want to provide that for my children as well, a non-judgment zone where before I could be very opinionated, but I also realized that my opinion shut them down, that they did not feel safe to talk to me if I was shutting them down and influencing with my opinion and not truly listening. And then again, aligning with our life and our values as to what is comfortable for us, despite what other people say. And as you were saying, being able to set boundaries. And there are many families that I have worked with through coaching that have had those outside influences, especially family who have opinions that contradicted and did not align with that family's values, that it can be difficult to have to set those boundaries and separate and not allow that to penetrate or influence, because now you're dealing with the conflict of what I feel is aligned with my values and what others, whether it's family or the world or the kids' peers, think that they should be doing instead. And the consistency I find when I have had an opportunity to set up what my family values are and why. Not just my family values, but why these are important to me in the way I raise my children, the way I carry myself, and in the way I interact with others. That provides the consistency that I am not wavering with the flow of everything that's coming at me. And I think, as you said, that's something that maybe we learn through experience and age, to be able to do that and be able to align those values as to what is important to us by following our gut and intuition. And so for those who are listening right now, there are going to be times where you are going to feel that internal conflict with something coming at you that does not align. That's when I say pause. We need to pause. We need to reflect. Why am I feeling this way? What is coming at me before I act or react impulsively on something without truly getting through? Because I've done that. I've allowed things to influence me only to realize when I got there, I shouldn't have done that was not the right approach. And so just learning from both of our experiences that if you are feeling that, that's the moment where we just say, hold right now. What's really happening? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And does this align with my true values, who I want to be and how I want to raise my family? You also talk a lot, Laura, about self-care and that work-life balance, which I don't even know, it's almost like an oxymoron for some people, a
it
work-life
is.
balance. Now,
I think harmony is a better word than
harmony,
balance.
right? Yeah,
Harmony.
how
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
we mirror the two? Because as self-employed entrepreneur, there are a lot of things that come up and a lot of things that can become overwhelming. And I remember, especially when my kids were younger, because they're grown and flown right now, how difficult it was for me to balance. Here I am supporting families and my kids are eating oatmeal again for dinner because I'm still in the office getting hurt. You know what I mean? Like I had to say, wait a minute, are you practicing what you preach, my friend? Because, or I get home late from an event and I have to, unload my stuff and I'm checking emails and I got two kids sitting on the floor that haven't seen their mom all day, right? But I'm feeling professionally, I need to respond to these emails. And what it was really difficult, and I think we talked about those boundaries again, as to the self-care that we need and finding that balance. So what can you share with us, a couple of tips on how we can do that we can again stay aligned to our family values with that balance and taking care of ourselves, because we can't give what we don't have. There was a lot there, wasn't there, in that question?
No, and it's easy to slip every now and then, because I did that recently where I took on this whole new project and then I was doing this and all of a sudden, oh, this is important. I got to do point. Next thing I was like, okay, wait a minute. Now he's home and it's like, okay, whatever, because I didn't get to take anything out. I didn't make dinner. And then I was like, this is not who I, excuse me, this is not who I am. Make that schedule. It's like I tell people, I was like, I don't know why, but when we get in business, it's like we feel like we're going to miss out on something, that, the FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh my God, I've got to answer now. But how many times have you quickly answered something and it's probably not the answer you really wanted to give, but you were trying to get it done? It's kind of like going to a store. When you go to a store, they have hours, right? And if it's after those hours, you're not getting in that store. So even though you're working from home, you have to create your hours. I do not work on the days that my fiance is off. The day he works a half a day, I do work a half a day, but I am done by dinner time. He's off at 5. So by 5, I am done. Is there an exception every now and then? Yes, because I work with people all over the globe, and, Australia being 18 hours ahead of me, that's a little tough sometimes to get it in. And he's very understanding, but I don't make it the norm. And when I'm done and I walk away, I walk away. The emails will still be there. You'll respond. And I mean, if you want, create an auto thing that says, hey, within 24 hours, I'll respond. Right. You don't have to respond this second, because we work so hard to build stuff for a better life for our family. But if you're ignoring your family and you're always on your phone, I've seen people at softball events trying to be there for their kid, but they're answering and they're still doing business. And put it away. It'll still be there. People have got to be able to respect your time and the fact that you are doing that. And yeah, that's the best thing I can say, is create them boundaries and stick to them. If you have an exception, it's once in a while. It's not all the time, because then the next thing you know, your schedule is out of whack. It's nothing of what you want to represent. I've seen people pack up meeting after meeting, so they're late getting to mine because they just went this and they ran over. You got to be respectful of other people's time, and they should be respectful of yours. And if they're not, do you really want to be doing business with them?
Yep.
Was it really meant to be your person?
No,
because I'll guarantee you, they don't jump through all the hoops when you need something.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to do it?
And you're absolutely right to be able to set those boundaries. And, if you are clocking into an office and leaving, a lot of times you can do that, unless, of course, you're getting emails and checking emails. I have learned that my phone will give me an alert saying you're done. So then I'm done. You know what I mean? Because it's too easy to hear a notification and check it, because I do have people that will send me messages and text messages and things like that. And I hear it and then I'm tempted. And as you said, I need to set my boundaries, that when I'm with my family, that I'm what you had mentioned as well about being present. Being present, and not just meaning your body's there, but I mean that your head in your headspace is there, that what we're showing the person that we're with, that they are important enough that I'm not going to be on my phone. And I really do try to not be on my phone. Like you, when Mark is off, I try to have that time with him, or I'll work a half a day while he's puttering and doing some other things, and then we'll spend that time together, because it is important. If not, it just continues on. And so it's okay to set those boundaries. But I will tell you, in my personality and that dominant driven personality, I sometimes get anxious that I'm not responding, because my personality is a do it now. That's what drives me to do it now, so I can get it over with. And so I've had to fight that internal, that if I I need to do it now. I need to respond now. And whether it's the FOMO or just the fact that if I don't do it now, then I'm going to have 7 things to do when I walk in the office in the morning. If I just take care of this now, then it's one less thing I'll have. So this is where my head goes with that,
Mhm.
and how do I set those boundaries? What is driving me to feel that I need to do it right now? And you're absolutely right. If I was a store or brick and mortar, when the doors are closed, it's over. There's no business happening. Can I do that? Can I set those boundaries? Why is it so difficult for me to set those boundaries? And so even those that are going to an office and coming home, and then you're still getting emails or still getting text. And I know my daughter-in-law working in retail, it was anytime she was off because she was a manager, she was getting this. And it was exhausting because there was no day off. And when there's no day off, then there's no opportunity to recover, to take care of the self-care, to get back into the game again. And I have found, personally for myself, that I have got to set those boundaries, that on the weekends, although I could come into the office and do one thing, next thing it would be 4 hours later.
Right.
So I have to like not do it at all.
Mhm.
It really is. But then I sometimes feel the guilt that I should just do this or do that just so I can get it done. And
So take time to celebrate your wins, because I used to do that too. And it's like, what do I have to prove? I used to answer people if they messaged me at like 2 in the morning or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I am setting the wrong message and the wrong precedence here.
yeah,
So unless it's an emergency, they can text me. But even still, my phone's on mute. So until
right,
I wake up, I'm not going to see it.
yeah,
But I told people when I'm step away from this computer, my emails do not ping my phone.
right.
You got to hit me up on Messenger, on Facebook, or you got to text message me. That is the only thing that's going to, or WhatsApp. That's the only thing that's going to ping my phone. It's not going to go off every time I get an email. I would have no peace whatsoever.
Right.
And you can't go full throttle and then crash. And then, okay, you recovered, but then you jump back into full throttle. So you got to find that harmony and not just create those, boundaries, but I almost lost my train of thought there, but there's a harmony to it. And it's, you have nothing to prove. Celebrate your small wins. Stop focusing on what you didn't finish and
Right.
focus on what you did do and be
Right.
proud of it. And if
Exactly.
you didn't get to it, then it probably wasn't all that important. And you got another day, you can do it tomorrow.
I also found that when I gave myself that space to not work and set those boundaries, when I got back into the office, I was more invigorated to get back to work. As compared to what I used to do, is I just went with whatever was happening just to try and stay on top of it. And I just dug a deeper rut, a deeper rut, a deeper rut until I was exhausted, the fatigue. I didn't have the mental bandwidth I was short on patience. Like I just didn't give myself an opportunity to rest, the self care. And each personality, and I've talked about this before on other episodes, kind of recovers in a different way. Now, as a dominant personality, we are the doers. So I like to do things, but not necessarily work. So I like to cook. I like to work in the garden. Like I just don't sit and veg because I still like to accomplish something, but it's not working. And it still stimulates me. Okay.
Right.
At least I'm getting something done, but it's just not my work. For the inspiring personality who really connects and engages in relationships, they really do like to do things, go out and get coffee, meet someone for happy hour, go to a baseball game or a concert or do something, be out and be with people. And that's the outgoing personalities, the dominant inspiring. Now, our more reserved personalities, the supportive personality, they recover by doing nothing. Like Netflix and a blanket and the cat. You know what I'm saying? And that's very different than where I'm doing, and I see somebody who does nothing, and I think, are you sick? Is there something wrong? And it's like I have to respect the difference. That's how they recover. And that was my daughter. Like she would just take a nap, and I'm just like, don't you have stuff to do? But she would take a longer time into the evening. But when she came home from school or even from college, she would rest, and then she'd get back to work. And I had to respect the differences. And for the cautious personality, who is more of our cognitive thinker, it's reading books, it's doing puzzles, or even gaming, like they game. You know what I mean? And that to me is like, that gives me a brain cramp. You know what I mean? Like that is just, why would you want to do that and call that recovery? But it's not right or wrong, it's different. And so when we see people who are recovering in different ways, can we respect that and give them that space to do that and not think that because it's not what I do there's
Right.
something wrong with that, not judge that, right? I really
Right.
had to learn to respect that people will handle things in different ways and it's not all my way. Just like, like my hubby is my opposite. So he's kind of the chill guy where my day off, we're just doing different things.
Yeah,
We're
and
not
it's
doing nothing. We're going to do something. It just won't be work. But I also had to know that sometimes he just likes to watch his movies and just have that quiet time. And so I may prepare a snack and then cuddle up with him and watch it with him. Now, it's not like I don't get up 4 or 5 times throughout the movie, you know what I'm saying? But respecting those differences and aligning, the self-care with the work-life balance so that when we do get back into it, we have been rejuvenated by what we're doing.
yeah. So it's funny when you describe all those because, as you know, I'm a heavily an I and S in your disc
Yes, you are.
profile.
Yeah.
However, I have my moments, excuse me, where I will sit and do nothing. But most of the times, if I'm watching TV, I'm cross stitching and playing on my tablet at the same time while I'm watching something. I love doing puzzles.
Yeah.
So there's times where I just want to sit and do a jigsaw puzzle. I love puzzles and things that make minds work. And
Mhm.
I am a doer. So I have a little bit of everything. I guess it depends on kind of maybe how emotionally
Mhm.
drained or whatever I'm trying to recover from.
Very
But
good.
if it's one thing I know is, or that I have learned, I should say, is that you sometimes have to slow down, step away to get more things done. Because when you sit there and you want to keep trying to get this done, I got to get this done, you got your head working in so much overdrive that it's like banging your head against a wall. But if you step away, go do something different, just totally forget about what you're doing, it's like a light bulb will flash on and you can come back and just knock it out and be like, why was I making that so hard?
That is
And
so true. I've experienced that. I've watched it in my kids. I know my daughter would get really overwhelmed, especially with a lot of homework when she got into the high school and the college years, that it was just like, let's just take a break. And not only take a break because she was a dancer and we had a studio in the basement with a ballet bar, like just go dance I would set the timer for 15 minutes, like step away. And when she stepped away and then the movement, of course, invigorated the brain, and she'd come back and get things done so much quicker. But sometimes we feel like we need to keep working, and that's what I talk about, digging the rut,
yeah,
and moms out there, how many times do we do that? We get up in the morning, we got to get the kids up, we got to get them out the door, we got to do all these things and then get us ready to do our part of the day. And when do we? And I'm not saying that you have to do this every single day, but you need to build it in. Like, it needs to be an appointment on your calendar that this is what you're going to do to step away from that, to nurture you. And that doesn't mean going to the grocery store without your kids. I mean, that used to be like, liberation for me. You know what I mean? I have no kids. I can go to the store. I can wander a little bit. But that's not it. Does that really nurture my soul? It's not nurturing my soul. It's just letting me get things done without 3 kids on my back. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
you really need to identify, what is it that I need? And then making sure you're building it in. And when you do, you will find that you have so much more energy and you come back in so invigorated to embrace what you were doing, embrace your life, rather
Mhm.
than feeling as though you're digging that rut. That leads to depression, discouragement, disillusion. You know how I know that? Because I did it. I did
Yeah.
it because I didn't think I needed it. I've got this. I've got this. As a dominant personality, a doer, 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 I kept doing and doing and doing, but then I kept getting slower. I was shorter on patience. And I started to get brain fog and confusion, not being able to be clear on the decisions I was making because I was fatigued. And if you get to that point, that's when we need to pause, or even like be still. Like, sometimes it's just those 2 words, be still, Karen. Be
Yeah.
still. Take a moment, take a breath, and
And
just
so
step
here's the
away from
thought. I mean,
everything.
how much do you think of that was ingrained in us when we were little? Because I'm sure you grew up in the same kind of household that I did, where you don't do nothing until your homework's done, or you
Right?
don't do nothing until your chores are done. Play, doing other things and
Yep.
activities was always a reward when you
Right.
were done.
Right.
And so we grew up in that whole generation where you do this fun, the things we enjoy doing was always last. And
Right.
then as you get older, you get more and more things that you think you have to do,
Yep.
and fun goes smaller and smaller,
Yep.
and you hit burnout.
And seeing that in our kids, I know I would see parents online, and their kids just didn't want to go to school. I granted my kids mental health days. Like I could tell, especially when, they're in high school and then they're in sport and, like they are not, they've got football games and then they've got, films on Saturday mornings, like, and then they had a part-time job, like I could tell when they were starting to feel it too. And if I could see they were dragging, I'd say, do you need a mental health day? Are you missing anything today? Is there anything that you're really going to be missing? If you're missing a test or quiz, you need to show up. If not, do you need a day? And I'll tell you, they appreciated that. They didn't take advantage of it. I didn't have
Right.
any of my kids that took advantage of, I'm not going, I'm not going. But I could start to see the drag in them as I saw the drag in myself and be like, are you okay? So it's like, I'm just exhausted. I'm like, is there anything you'd be missing today? And I know my son Eric, like he would just stay and watch movies. He'd watch Herbie the Love Bug. I'm probably dating it, but he would watch the whole series. That was one of his favorite movies. You know what I mean? And so, but that's what he would do. And he would just, it would be like chicken noodle soup, the cat, and watch Herbie the Love Bug. You know what I mean? And he would sleep all day, but then the next day he was back at it. And so we need to see that in our kids and give them that break to be able to recover and not think that just like we feel that same pressure and overload, our kids are feeling that and sometimes even more because they're still trying to deal with those emotions and how am I supposed to feel and not telling anybody, or it comes out in behavior. Either you're going to get the outburst where they're just totally angry and freaking out on you, or they're shutting down and withdrawing and disengaging from everything. And so when you start to see that in our kids, we need to lean into them too and say, hey, is everything okay? What do you think you need to do so you can start to feel better? And identifying their personality and knowing what the recovery is, then you can kind of make those suggestions. Do you need a day to do this? Do you need a day to do that?
Yeah,
What do
and
you
I
need?
think if you can have an honest conversation with them, leave the judgments. And we know you're trying to be the good parent and stuff, but leave the judgments aside and have a heart to heart where they know there's no repercussion if they share with you how they're feeling and what they're gonna react to and stuff, and maybe learn and maybe get some more insight into a child. Because I love when you brought up that whole disc thing, because it's like, yeah, it's something I didn't learn until I went through like a project management. I learned it for business, but really it applies to people, your children, everything. And when you learn how to identify with people better, because I always love how you said, we weren't taught to raise a human. No one is. We're all different, but yet everybody wants to try and put people in this box. I'm like, I am not a box person. I am an out of the box person. I am not an in the box person. I grew up military. You do what you're told. You do everything you're told. No questions asked. Whatever. But that's not really. Yeah, it's just kind of didn't fit. Not
No,
really who I
I
was. I was like,
understanding your personality. That was
there's
not
other
a fit.
options. There's other options out here.
Yes, you're definitely more of a free spirit and being able to do that. And so I just want to encourage those who are listening to this episode to just find your flow, find what is aligning with you, follow your gut and your intuition. If something's not sitting right, there's a reason for that. And that you need to question, is this aligned with who I am? There are going to be exceptions to that rule where we may have to waver. But if something is truly not right, that's why we need to just take that moment to pause, be still, think it through. Why am I feeling uncomfortable with this? We need to go a little bit deeper than just the surface. I'm feeling a little bit in my gut right now that something's not sitting right. Why is it not sitting right? Is this something that I need to lean into, or do I need to hold firm to my boundaries? And there are going to be times where, especially with kids and adolescents, when they want more freedom, that we need to set those boundaries with them. But if we are following our gut and we're consistent with why we do what we do, I think that they are going to learn to respect that in the end. I know my mom had boundaries with me and I did not like any of them. Did I test them? Yes. Did I break them? Yes. And then I had my kids and said, oh, so that's why she did that, and it was to keep me safe. It
Mhm.
was to keep me safe from the harms that I didn't even know. So if it's aligning with your gut, then you need to follow your gut and taking care of yourself. And so that you are clear. I knew that when I started doing more self care and stepping away from the work part of it, we talk about the work-life balance or the harmony, stepped away from it and just did other things so I can be away from it. Number one, I was more clear because I was able to recover from all the stress of the business side. And then when I came back to business, I was rejuvenated because I didn't stay in that rut. So it's okay to have your boundaries as to when you will work, when you won't work. It's okay to follow your gut in alignment with your family values to truly be able to find your flow so that every day doesn't feel so sticky, and
Yeah, and flow is important. I've learned that recently from a lady I've worked with that is all about water and our water molecules and flowing. And this is going to be out of the box, but if you think about it, when water is flowing, whether it hits rocks, whatever, it goes under, it goes over, it goes to the side. It doesn't stop. It keeps moving. So why do we look at everything as like a barrier? It's flow. You're just seeing one way. So open up your ideas or your perceptions because it's going to keep flowing somewhere. It's just a matter of, are you going to flow with it or are you going to try and force it? If it's much easier if you flow than if you force.
I agree. It is the flow, and we're more flexible when we are feeling as though we can do that. But when we are so rigid, because look, I know that when I am in those tense situations, I am very short fused, very
Hmm.
short fused. And that's not healthy because now I'm not flowing. I'm like, it's like a flat tire, I'm like boom, 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 and
Right.
everything's a bump in my life rather than just say, we'll get through it, we'll go, and flowing with it. And it is, I love about aligning. We talked about aligning, really aligning our values to who we are, what we believe, taking care of ourselves and being able to find that work life balance so that we can be the best we can be in whatever we are doing. So, Laura, do you have any last minute comments, tips to share with our audience before we sign off?
Um, yeah, well, I love that the fact that you even have this platform because I think it's a very important one. I was so glad to have you on the show. Like you said, we're not taught to raise a human, and we are all different. So yeah, the fact if people can open up, create their boundaries, get themselves in a place so they can be more present, but be more open and look at it from a different perspective, really kind of get to connect with what personality your child is, right? And get that other perception so that you can connect with them better. A lot less friction, a lot less grounding, and everything else, because that all always creates friction. Because I'm like you, there wasn't always everything I agreed with, and if I was told not to do something, that was just like challenge accepted. So I love how the fact that you even said, hey, I gave them permission. They didn't take advantage of it, but you offered it. But see, they give your kids a chance. They can make intelligent, they can make intelligent decisions, especially when you allow them, to do that and it's not so rigid. And I love how you use flow because it really is. It's all about flow.
Yeah. And it's
So
the
learn to
communication
be
and
in flow and
collaboration.
stop forcing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Communication and collaboration and understanding your why behind it. When I can share with my kids that, yeah, there are times where I just get really overwhelmed with everything and I just need a break. Do you need a break today? And it was
Yeah.
like they were just grateful and they appreciated and respected that, because we were able to work together. And as I said, they didn't take advantage of that. But that's just part of raising them to be a human and teaching them that self-care and taking a pause and taking care of yourself is okay when you need to. Because if
Yeah.
all
And
we
you can
do
set
is
by and you
rush
can
them
send
into
the example,
everything, yeah,
right?
it becomes a rat race for them as well.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
set the example because when you're not, guess what they're going to be following.
Yep.
Now, some will do the exact opposite, but others they will still tend to follow that because that's what they know, that's what they saw. So, yeah, be that example. It'll be better
So,
for you
Laura,
and your
if our
kids.
audience wants to follow you, tell us a little bit more. And I'd like to be able to provide a link to where they can watch some of your episodes. Is that possible?
Oh yeah, yeah. So Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross TV show, which I'm happy to say today is the day. It's launching into its own channel on e360tv.com. But it is really easy to find on YouTube. You just do at Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. You can find all the episodes. We're almost done with season 7. I'll be going into season 8 soon. So lots of wonderful guests like you and yourself. And it's all about holistic. It's about mindfulness, self-care, all realms, business, you name it. Because if you are not practicing that and you're off, you are off in one area, you're off in all areas. So I love bringing those people together with their journeys, sharing their challenges, how they got over them, how they support others. It's really meant for resources to help educate, connect, and collaborate with people. So you can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Just look for Laura Cross White Sands, and you will find me. So I'm happy to connect with anybody willing.
Laura, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with our audience today, and congratulations on the channel and all the work that you are doing, be able to support other people. And those of you, if you have liked this episode, click like, click subscribe, share with others, because it truly is going to bring balance to your life when you are living a life that is aligned with your values, being able to take care of yourself so that you can find that balance and harmony in your life where life just flows. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. We'll see you next time.